Okay, hi everyone. This is a tutorial on how to model simple shoes, or in this case, it's more like a boot of some sort, I guess. So there's a lot of different ways in which you can um, combine those elements together. So sometimes when working on the shoes, I would use a quarter of a sphere for the bottom for the toes, so for the bottom part, and then a cylinder for the top part, and then I would just try and combine them together at some stage. This time I decided to go just with extrusion, so I'm not really using any other tools except for extrusion and the bend. So one thing that I noticed that a lot of elements of this turnaround didn't translate into 3D quite well, so I had to make a couple of readjustments, which you will see later on. And I've mentioned that a couple of times. You can't really expect to get a one-to-one translation. You will always have to sacrifice something, which is completely fine. I guess unless you're working in like a proper sculpting program like ZBrush, where you have a little bit more freedom in what you're creating, but then you're creating a lot of geometry as well, which will not work for most of the gaming engines and even movies as well. So you will have to learn how to still get a decent amount of topology, not use a couple of millions of polygons for your models. So as you can see here, I'm just extruding the top part of the shoe, so I decided to go that way to create this particular part of the model, and you will see that I'm spending quite a bit of time manipulating vertices and just pushing them around, seeing or trying to figure out if it looks good or not. So a lot of what I'm actually doing comes from me taking a look at it and thinking, you know, it's not gonna look well, or it doesn't have enough appeal. And at this stage you already should know what appeal is. You usually talk about it as another principle of animation, but it applies to any art you will be doing throughout your life. So it sort of needs to look quite nice, maybe not perfect, but at least you know, somewhat appealing. So nothing that we haven't discussed so far. It's all the same tools that we have been using since day one, and potentially even less than what you were shown, because I'm not really using any bevel or any other fancy tools. It's just usually move tool, rotate, extrude, sometimes append and merge vertices if I'm trying to connect different elements together. This is where I'm using my append tool. As you can see, just trying to connect different elements together. And again, I'm spending a lot of time trying to figure out the topology or the flow of the polygons, just making sure that it sort of makes sense. And that will come with experience, so you can't really think that you will be able to understand everything perfectly unless you try it yourself a couple of times and see what works and what doesn't. It's one of those things that you have to learn on your own. It's sort of similar to live drawing, for example. You can't expect somebody else to draw something for you and think that this is how you learn. 3D modeling is exactly the same as live drawing. It's just the different means of achieving similar results, because in the end all you see on your screen is just a 2D image. Okay, and so for this bottom part, as you can see at the moment, I'm just extruding a whole bunch of things so that I can create the bottom of the shoe. But later on, I actually think I will be separating that bottom half from the boot itself, because as you can see on the reference image, there is a little bit of a separation in there, which I sort of avoided here. Decided not to model it in, because as soon as you try and model it in, you will start creating a lot of additional edges. So I will try and avoid this by separating those two elements and then recreating the sole of the shoe, so I can actually add as many elements as I need and it won't destroy anything else. So I think I will probably show it in the later videos, unless I decide to get rid of that idea altogether, depending on how much detail I want for this model to have in the end. And now I'm just adding supporting edges.